Hey everybody, today we're just going to do a brief synopsis of what we went over in class the other day. So I'm going to go through the whole audition process, show you the things. This way you'll be able to watch it whenever you want to, and also do a little demo of the podcast that we did in class. So here's Adobe Audition. I already have it open. Now, one of the things I want to do first is go to my preferences up here and go to my audio hardware and make sure I'm recording using the right devices. So my default input is the microphone I have plugged in. So we can use, you see an external microphone. That would be if I was using my earpods here. Here's my microphone that I have plugged in right here in front of me. And also their internal microphone for the Mac, which I'm not going to use. And my output, in my case, is going to be this right here, because that's the way I can capture the audio while I'm recording this session. For you, it'd probably be your headphones, whatever you have plugged in to listen. So I'm just going to hit OK there. And here, I haven't done anything yet. I haven't set up anything. I want to make a new multi-track session. So I can either go File, New Multi-Track Session, or Command N as a shortcut, or I just usually click on the multi-track button here on the top left, and it's going to pop up a little window. So first thing, I always browse to where I want to save it to. So for this one, I'm saving it to my OneDrive. You should be saving this to your external drive. For this, I'm using it as an example. So I want to go into my course folder here. And once I'm in here, you can see actually I already have some sound files in there. I'm just going to hit choose. And then here I'm going to name it. So this is Facebook safe for kids. And I'm going to leave everything else as default. So that's my location. I chose that. I gave it a name. That should be the title of my story. I'm going to leave the template as blank there. I'm going to leave all this stuff the same and hit OK. And that's going to open my multi-track session. And now we'll see in my Finder, if I go to my OneDrive here and go to Courses, where I had that demo folder, it created a folder here that's the same thing as Facebook Safe for Kids. If I open that up there is the project file. So this is my audition project file for this project. Now in here, I don't have anything yet because I haven't recorded yet, but here's my tracks. Over here is where my media is going to live. Down here I have a media browser, I have an effects rack, markers and properties, which we're not going to get into that stuff too much, but we're going to be using the media browser and the effects rack for this stuff. So first things first, I want to record the narration. Now I'm not going to record all 4 pages of narration for the example we're using. I'm just going to do the first page so I can have enough there to show you how to record it and then how to get the information in there. So I have my script open already, but first I need to make sure that I am importing, and we're going to record the correct thing. So up here in my track 1, first I'm going to rename this. So here's track 1. I can click on that. I can name this narration. So I always know that's my narration. Under default input, if you click this arrow, you're going to see that it has choices of what my input is. So it's pulling from what I already told it in the settings to be, but I also have the choice between mono and stereo. If I have other devices, I might have more inputs on it, but this is all I need to choose from. I'm going to make sure that is chosen. I'm going to hit the R button to record ready, and you can see my levels there. There are my levels. And then if I hit the I button, I can hear myself, and it's slightly delayed a little bit, so I'm going to shut it off for a second. If you have your headphones plugged in and you want to listen to yourself, which you should, when you first hit that I button, it's going to sound very delayed to you and it will mess you up. So again, I'm going to go my preferences here, go to my audio hardware, and I'm going to bring this buffer size down to the smallest thing possible. And I'm going to hit OK and turn this back on now. And it's much closer. It's actually still a little delayed for my liking. It's best to listen to yourself if you can. If for whatever reason you turn this down as far as you can and it's still a little delayed, it's probably better to leave it off because it will mess up just how you speak. Some microphones have headphone jacks right on them, which is really helpful as well. There's my script. And this is Claire's script that she let me use for the class. So I'm going to just record this first page here. Let me extend this down a little bit so I don't have to scroll while I'm reading necessarily. I always like to make it as easy as possible. And let's Let's move this a little bit to the side so you can see the waveforms at the same time. Actually, we'll do this. We'll shrink this down so you can see the waveforms as I'm recording. I'll just have to do a little bit of scrolling. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to hit record. I can see my waveforms are appearing there as they should be. Come down, open my script back up. There it is. And 3, 2, 1. With close to 3 billion users, Facebook is the most popular social media platform in the world. For context, if those users were put 3, 2, 1. For context, if those users were all put into one country, 3, 2, 1. For context, if those users were all put into a country, it would be the most heavily populated country in the world. And since its release in 2004, Facebook has remained at the top. It seemed the company could do no wrong for many years. They had the most users, the most power, and for the most part, users enjoyed the site. But now, close to 2 decades later, Facebook faces the most criticism it has had since its conception. Leave space there for the cut. 3, 2, 1. Karen Seacrest is a mom of 4 in Fairfield, Connecticut. She says she tried to keep her kids off social media for as long as she could. When asked if she allowed her kids to be on Facebook, her answer was this. Karen's kids grew up in the age where social media began to become more and more popular. All her kids had accounts before 13 years old. Even back a decade ago, when her kids started using Facebook, she had a bad feeling about the site. And now, 3, 2, 1. And now, this disapproval has only heightened for parents. That's coming from Matt Wilk, a recent communications graduate from Sacred Heart University. He says he remembers making him 3, 2, 1. He says he remembers making an account before he was 13, even though his parents were not okay with it. Facebook, along with most social media sites, have safety settings in place to only allow 3, 2, 1. Facebook, along with most social media sites, have safety settings in place to allow only children 3, 2, 1. Facebook, along with most social media sites, have safety settings in place to only allow children 13 years and older to join their site. Yet children under this age still join. Matt says after growing up with social media, he understands why Facebook is this harmful site. Matt says after growing up with Facebook, he understands why Facebook is a harmful site to children. Okay, we're going to stop it right there. And you can see, as I was doing it, I did a lot of pickups, I did a lot of re-records. Anytime you mess up, have a hesitation, don't think it sounds right, go back, re-record it. Don't be stubborn and try to do it all in one take, because you're not going to be happy with the outcome of it afterwards. So now that I have it, this is just my narration. Like I said, I only did the first page of almost 4 pages. And now it's time to cut this up. So now I can move back and forth in my timeline here. On the top here, I have this gray selection area that I can move back and forth with. I can also zoom out using the minus key or using the plus key. The backslash key, the one above the return key, will always go out all the way. The solid red line is our playhead. That's where if I were to hit the spacebar, that's where it would start playing from there. It went back to the beginning because I have looping turned on here, so it automatically went back to the beginning. So here we are at the beginning, and now it is time to cut it up. Now, I recommend, I'm going to have the script on another screen here. You should always have your script, really you should print it out just to make it easier, get it off your computer screen so you have space to work. I have it on another screen here so I can see it as I'm editing, which is very helpful. So you can see I did the 3, 2, 1s. I always do that for 2 reasons. One, it's for pacing. It helps you just keep pace, slow yourself down. And it's an easy marker. I can see I have a 3, 2, 1 here. I have 3, 2, 1. 1 there, 3, 2, 1. As you get good at editing, you'll just be able to see where those 3, 2, 1s are. With close to 3 billion media platform in the world. For context, so really I'm going to chop up sentence by sentence at this point because I messed up on the second sentence, which is fine. Now, because we're at the beginning, I can just grab this front here, and when my mouse turns to the red bracket like that, I can just click and drag it right to where I want to cut it. I can move this to the beginning. With close to 3 billion users, Facebook is the most popular social media platform in the world. Now this is where we make our first cut, because this is already where I messed up. So to make a cut inside Audition, I'm going to use the razor tool. So I can either go up to the toolbar here and click on the little razor, or for speed, I just hit the shortcut R on my keyboard. And when I hover over the red line, it's going to snap to it, and I made a cut there. And now I need to actually come all the way over to here for context. If that's where the next part is. So I can either make a cut here, or I could again drag my mouse all the way to here. So there's two different ways of doing that. And then to bring it together, I could click and drag it like this. That's one way of doing it. Or I can right click, say ripple delete, gap, and it's going to just bring it all the way there. So if it's within frame, if I can see it in eyesight, I usually move it. If it's a big section, I'll use the ripple delete. And I always want to listen to the edit point afterwards. A platform in the world. For context, it's a little tight. I want a little bit more breathing room there, so I'm just going to bring it out. It's too much. I can see a breath. Oops. I double clicked on it. That was a mistake. Don't do that by accident. Media platform in the world. For context, if those users, that's much better. Users were all. So right now I'm just going to keep editing until I get to the point where I'm going to insert my first sound clip. All put into a country, it would be the most heavily populated country in the world. And since its release in 2004, Facebook has remained at the top. It seemed the company could do no wrong for many years. They had the most users, the most power, and for the most part, users enjoyed the site. But now, close to 2 decades later, Facebook faces the most criticism it has had since its conception. Okay, so this is where we're going to make our first insert with a soundbite. So I'm going to use the razor tool here, shortcut R. When I bring my mouse up to the title bar of the track, you can see my mouse changes from the razor to the move tool, so I can move it without even having to change what my cursor is with a shortcut. It's still the razor, although if I'm not doing a lot of cutting, I like to be safe and go back to my move tool, which is the shortcut V on the keyboard. So now I want to bring into here a sound clip. So I need to get my sound clips in my files area first of all. Now you can, right from the browser, right from your Finder, you can click and drag files over like this and bring them in. The other way of doing it is actually using your browse media area here. So I can browse my hard drive and come down here. I'm going to go right to there, and there's all my sound files. And I can either double click on them, which will open them up in another window here.
I don't think it's the right.
So I'm going to show you two different ways of doing this. I'm going to do it this way first. So I double clicked on it. It opened up into here, and I'm going to preview what I need to listen to. So I know it go from there to.
Can be taken advantage of.
And that's the end of that sound clip right there. So I want to make sure track 2 is highlighted here. Go back to my waveform. I'm just going to, while the time selection tool is enabled here, I'm going to click and drag the area. So I know this is what I need.
I don't think it's the right platform for children the way it is now, because I think it can, basically there's too many ways in which the children can be taken advantage of.
So that's what I need. I'm going to right click on the highlighted area. I'm going to say insert into multitrack, and I'm going to choose the multitrack that I'm using. And now it's going to insert in. Now look what it did though. It put it all the way at the beginning. That's not where I want it to be. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. If that happens to you, there's an easy way to fix that. So I'm just going to undo. I'm going to come back to where I actually want it. But I'm going to go to my preferences, and I'm going to go to multitrack. And actually it's in the multitrack clips here. There is a second checkbox that says use embedded timecode when inserting clips into multitrack. So this is great if you're doing movies with time codes, sync generation, and all that stuff, but you're not doing that. So uncheck this, hit OK, and now when I go here, I'm going to right click again, insert into multitrack, and now it's going to put it right where I had the playhead on the track that was highlighted. And now I can even rename this track to be Karen. This is Karen's track. This is Conception.
I don't think it's the right platform for children the way it is now, because I think it can, Basically, there's too many ways in which the children can be taken advantage of.
So there's her first clip here. Now let's go find my next part. Karen Seacrest is a mom. So I'm going to get rid of some of that, move this over.
Advantage of.
Karen Seacrest is a mom of 4 in Fairfield, Connecticut. She says she tried to keep her kids off social media for as long as she could. When asked if she allowed her kids to be on Facebook, her answer was this. So here's the next part of Karen. Now I'm going to show you another way to do this. So I showed you how to do it from the waveform. And honestly, it'd probably be better to do that because then this is the next part.
No, I don't think they should be allowed to be on Facebook, but I don't know that. I think that control comes down to what the parents want.
So that's what it is. You could also drag this directly into here, but now I need to find the part where I need.
No, I don't think.
Like this, and then
that control comes down to what the parents want.
That's the end of it. I can cut this part off, go back to my move tool, hit that, select that, and then hit delete. And that's another way of doing it. So there's more than one way of doing it. And it really depends on how your clips are organized, how big they are, and what you're comfortable with. So there's always more than one way to do the editing here. So let's keep on going. We're going to find another clip here. Karen's kids grew up in the age where social media began to become more and more popular. All her kids had accounts before 13 years old. Even back a decade ago, when her kids started using Facebook, she had a bad feeling about the site. And now, the site. Oh, we're going to make a cut here because I messed up. That's fine. That's coming from Matt Wilk. And now, this disapproval. So again, I'm just going to delete that. And look at this. I can do the ripple delete. Move that there. And now, this disapproval has only heightened for parents. Now here's our next sound clip that we're going to insert from somebody else. So this is from Matt now. So there's all that. I'm going to select that. And again, we're going to do right click, insert in multi-track, Facebook, and oh, I made an error. You can see here it actually overlaid on top of the wrong one. So I can move it down. I should have had this highlighted first, so it would go right to there. But if it does do this, it's not that big a deal. You can always move it between tracks. And a little tip, if you want to make sure it stays in the same time area without going left and right as you move, hold the shift key as you move up and down, and you can't move it left and right while you do that. So this track 3 is now Matt's track. So I just want to label that. Let's take a listen to this clip because I think we might be able to take some stuff away from this too.
Unless they come up with some other thing to tell how old you are, like you can just lie, make it like you can make an account and lie. So like you can change the age regulation. So like lie. So an account and lie.
So right here, I'm just editorial wise, I'm not changing anything he's saying. I'm just taking away a little bit of his stutter here.
Make an account and lie.
So lie, I'm going to cut this. I'm going to see how this sounds. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to try this.
Make it like you can make an account and lie. You can change the age regulation, but like how do you know if the kids are actually following that and not just making an account under a fake age?
So this is a little example. It's not too bad there. I just want to show the fact that you don't have to, you're using someone's sound clip. You don't have to use the entire sound clip. You could break up that clip into 2 smaller clips and get out some of the parts that you don't need. And so then I would continue on editing the rest of my narration back and forth until I'm done with it. So once that is done, we'll pretend I've done the rest of it and added more clips because there's another person, there's another 2 voices to add in here. Now we need to make sure all these volume levels are pretty much level with each other. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start with track 1. And this is a very simple thing to do. It's a good starting point. Come down here to my left where it says effects racks. I'm going to open that up. And I'm going to use a preset called podcast voice. And now all these effects, these 5 effects, are now affecting this entire first track. I'm going to do the same thing for track 2 for Karen. So you could affect just a clip if you just had one off that you need to do. But when I have a lot of clips from the same person or a narration like this, it's a lot easier to do the whole track. So I'm just going to do this, do it for Matt's track. And now, podcast voice, there it is. So what this is doing, you can see it has a denoiser. So if there's a little background noise, it's going to take some of that away. It also has a thing called a speech volume leveler. So It's actually going to help increase some of the volume. So if some things are too low, like Karen's and Matt's are a little lower, it's going to bring that up. Some dynamic processing that makes you sound better. Same with the EQ. And also a thing called the hard limiter. That's going to make it so we don't get too loud and over amplified. So now let's just listen to the difference between these two tracks now. The most criticism it has had since its conception.
I don't think it's the right platform for children the way it is now, because I think it can, basically there's too many ways in which the children can be
So that's a lot better than it was before. We're a lot closer to each
taken
other.
advantage of.
Karen Seacrest is a mom of 4 in Fairfield, Connecticut. She says she tried to keep her kids off social media for as long as she could. Again, compared to Matt over here too. Only heightened for parents.
Unless you they come up with some other thing to tell how old you are, like you can just lie, make it like you can make an account and lie. You can change the age regulation, but like how you
Now my track I think is a little too loud compared to the others still as well. I can always come here to the hard limiter, maybe make this -3 as a preset. And now it's going to bring mine down. Later, Facebook faces the most criticism it has had since its conception.
I don't think it's the right platform for children the way it is.
And while I'm listening to it, I'm doing 2 things. I'm listening, but I'm also looking at my meters down here. So I want to trust but verify. I'm trusting my ears to make sure it sounds right, but I'm verifying it with the meter at the same time. So that way I know that I'm in a good range. I could even bring the volumes right here. This would bring the entire volume for the track down. So if I hit like -3, it'd make it even a little quieter. But now, close to 2 decades later, Facebook faces the most criticism it has had since its conception.
I don't think it's the right
So that's a lot of little stuff that you can do to help your voice sound a little bit better. Now, some other things to do. The transitions between tracks sometimes are a little harsh. Maybe you hear a little clip happening, whatever. You can always have your tracks overlap just a little bit. What I also like to do is when I click on a clip like this, you'll see this little square appear. And this is your fading square, for lack of a better term. It creates fade out. So I can click on this and I can drag it, and this yellow line represents a fade. Conception. They didn't hear fade anything there. If I make it longer here, you'll hear my voice fade. Facebook faces the most criticism it has had since its conception. Now I don't want that over my voice, but I do want it at the very end. So that way, if you do hear a clicking happening when you transition from one to another, you can always just add a little bit of a fade. You won't notice the fade is happening, but what you're doing is you're taking away that sound that would have happened had you not done that. And that's just going to make it a nice, easier transitions between clips there. So I'd do that. I'd go through, I'd listen to every single edit I listen to my edits as I make them, but I also listen to them afterwards. So once I'm done editing everything and I think everything's in a good spot, I go back to the beginning, listen to the whole thing again, fix it up as I go, make sure the levels are good. And then always make sure you save. If you look right here in my files area, this is the project file right here. It has an asterisk next to it. Anything that has an asterisk next to it in the file area means it's not saved. So I'm just going to do a Command S. You do a file save. Now it's going to pop up with this message here. It says one or more media files that I'm using are outside of the session folder. Now I happen to know, just because of where I created it, all my files are right here. So they're next to it. However, if you didn't have them, say there are files you downloaded off from an email or whatever, and they're in your downloads folder and you want to make sure they're there, if you hit yes, I'm going to hit yes just to show you what happens. Now, inside this, I have all these, there's what I recorded, but also imported files. So everything I used from outside has imported into here as well. So now this one folder contains everything I need from what I'm currently editing. So if I just copy that one folder, pass it off, bring it on a hard drive, whatever, I have everything I need. Now, once you're done with the whole project and you want to get it out, I've saved it. I have the project file, but this is just the Audition project file. If I can't upload this anywhere, it's not going to know anything. It just references the audio files that are within it. To get this out of here, this use where like SoundCloud or somewhere, so you can upload it, you have to go to File, Export, Multi-track Mixdown, Entire Session. And then again, you're going to navigate to where you want to save that. Probably be again here on my OneDrive, in my courses folder, wherever it went to. There it is. inside here. And a lot of times I'll also make a folder within my project areas called exports. So if I'm exporting more than one version because I have revisions, I can keep track of those exports. It's going to name it by default, your file, the project name underscore mixdown. You can get rid of the mixdown if you want. And then by default, it starts as WAV. In order to be able to upload it to a website, you want to hit the format drop down here and choose MP3. Because a WAV file, that's a full uncompressed file type. You're not going to be able to upload that to sites for sharing on websites though. So you need to compress it down to an MP3. And once you do that and hit OK, it's not going to take very long. Audio goes very fast. And then you're going to have an exported file. There's my export. This is the file that I'm going to upload to my audio sharing site later on. And that is a brief overview of how to get, record in here, get everything set up for recording, and then do your edits, put on some effects. They're very simple things. You can always fine tune these later on or try some other effects and have fun with that. But this is a basic way of how you should start aligning your projects and get it going. So I hope that was helpful for everybody. And if you have any questions, please let me know.